Okay, I'm back here with a Xbox 360 that I took apart late last night. It was a old Red Ring of Death that I've had for many years. I don't remember the whole entire story on this. I dug up a lot of my old Xbox 360s, like 6 or 7 of them. And 4 of them were all Red Ring of Deaths. So this being an older Xenon model, I figured I had nothing to lose with this one. And part of why I took it apart last night. Not under ideal situation and circumstance. Mostly on the floor even at one point. But I did take it apart. And I have mostly cleaned the CPU and GPU, and I'm going to reapply thermal paste. And ideally, I would like to do a X-clamp fix and increase the strength of the hardware and the clamping force that these unfortunately do not provide. So I may still do that, but for now I just wanted to kind of play around really and just apply some heat. I'm going to try to do a bit of a reflow here. So I'm using this quick hot air rework station 861 Pro that I just got. So I'm going to just start with like 350 degrees on the bottom side of the boards. I'm just going to concentrate on the CPU and the GPU. And I'm almost just really doing a preheat on this side of the board. And the other side is where I'm going to actually take up the temperature and hit it with more heat. Okay. So now I'm going to, a little tricky with one hand, but I'm going to flip this over and apply even more heat to the top side, including I'll be concentrating on this ANA chip. There's the HANA and the ANA. This is an older Xenon board with an ANA chip. Just going to get some heat into these. I'm going to turn up my temperature, I think, to like 450 on this side. Jeez. Very sensitive. Now I think I'm going to increase my air flow here too. Take that up to like 70. So now we're cooking. You want to try to keep the heat away from those capacitors, they're not going to like it. So the idea here is to basically reflow, reheat, and remelt all the solder connections so that if there are any cold joints, which is often what the cause of the red ring of death would be, and that is where the thermal cycling of this motherboard And they talk about it, surprisingly, in the Xbox documentary Power On, which is excellent and I recommend watching. The thermal cycling of the motherboard would cause the expansion and contraction on these solder joints, which would cause them to fail over time. And Xbox essentially issued a recall and extended the warranty on all their Xboxes and did the right thing by replacing anyone's Xbox who failed. And I know I sent in a few back in the day, and I believe that's where some of these have come from. Some might have been donors from friends who I explained the process of sending them back. I can't remember if, I know at one point they would send you a coffin, they all called it, because it was what you shipped your old dead Xbox back in. But I believe there were even some, and I can't remember. I'd have to go back to look through to see if it was a thing, but it felt like maybe I didn't even have to send some back, and that would explain why I have so many of them. And they have all been sitting for years too, so some of those 4 may have just died just sitting in my basement dormant like they were for so long. I might hit these RAM chips with some heat too. This other chip over here. Okay, I know this isn't very exciting, but I want to give this enough time, which the snow might not even be yet. And I'm not expecting, honestly, I'm not even expecting this to work. I'm just kind of playing around at this point. This Xbox has nothing to lose. I have 4 of these now that are Red Ring of Death. I'm gonna probably experiment and try some different methods on each of them, and to see if any can be recovered. And if so, I will get them all updated and try some cool things out on them. I'll do restorations. And I know the fate of these will probably be to fail again, especially with this kind of fix. This is really only temporary at best, if it even works at all. These Xboxes, which were why Xbox admitted to, can now talk about and upgraded their warranty program for these models because they knew themselves the fate of probably nearly all of them would be to eventually die with the Red Ring of Death, which is where we'll show you 3 out of the 4 quadrants on the front that are lit up in red, and at that point you know that your Xbox is basically done. Thankfully back then, if that happened to you, they would replace it for you, but at this point all bets are off. There's nothing to lose. We are going to try everything, and if it fails, then there was really no loss to begin with, and if whatever does work, I'll be able to discover hopefully some methods that might work better than others, and if any of them work well enough, then hopefully I can recover some of these Xboxes. Okay, so we'll let that cool, and I'm going to let the whole board, without disturbing it at all, come down to room temperature. I'm sure it's quite warm right now. It just received a lot of heat. Much of this is probably 450 degrees. So the heat sinks I've got mostly cleaned off already. It seems like they always leave somewhat of an imprint sometimes that is nearly impossible to remove, but I'll apply new thermal paste on these chips. I have MX6 here that I've been using for my refurbs, but since I'm not expecting this to even work, this is mostly experimental, and this might even be only a quick test because I'd like to get the hardware for the X-clamp fix, which you can source yourself if you'd like. You can buy kits also that are available now for this, but it really is just some machine screws and washers, and drilling out some holes, removing these old posts that the clamps fixed to, and replacing that with machine screws and washers, and being able to clamp that down tighter, because that is also a cause here of the red ring, is that the clamping force is not enough for these heat sinks on top of the chips, along with the combination of the failing thermal paste, which did not seem very great under here. I just recently refurbished 2 original Xboxes, and it seemed like they had more or better thermal paste in them. But that again was maybe part of the problem with the original Xboxes, is that some of these corners were cut. I believe that the motherboard was considered to be a little on the thin side, causing it to be able to expand and contract more than it should with the amount of heat that these game consoles are now generating. So this board is still very warm. It's going to take, I'm going to let that cool for a good hour or so probably to come down to room temperature. Hopefully the solder underneath these chips became hot enough to melt and reflow and reconnect any of the poor cold joints and bridges that may have been compromised. So we will see. We won't sit here and watch this cool off like paint drying, but I will come back, and in the meantime I'll probably give these heat sinks over here, they're still cool, so it's just isopropyl that I'm using, Q-tips, paper towel. I got these mostly cleaned off already, and I'll tell you that these Xbox 360 heat sinks were a lot easier to clean than the original Xboxes. I scrubbed for hours on those, and if you want, I have a video of the restoration that I performed, and most of that footage is in there. I'm still new to this. This is only going to be now my 4th video, I think. So I'm going to get better at this, and fortunately learn some tricks that will make these videos a little easier to watch, because I don't think anybody wants to watch me scrub thermal paste as long as I did in those original videos, and now again here. Okay, we're back. The board is all cooled off to room temperature. I've gone ahead and finished cleaning the CPU and GPU chips, as you can see. I'm not sure how well this will be on this camera. It's just a GoPro. But I got those cleaned along with the other chips. I gave them a clean too. The heat sinks have been cleaned best that I could. They always seem to leave a bit of an imprint on them left behind. But before I apply the thermal paste, I think I am going to get the parts for the X-clamp fix, we'll call it as it's called. Okay, I decided not to wait for the parts that I'm going to need for the X-clamp, and I'm just going to YOLO it now instead, and It shouldn't take long. I'm just going to apply some. I have MX6 that I use for my restorations, but I did find this old tube of MX2. I don't even know if there's any in here or if it's still good. But for the purposes of this test, and it does appear that I have enough in there. And I'm just going to apply it. And I wasn't quite prepared for this, so I'm going to, this will be tricky to do. Yeah, this is going to be a bit tricky. So I'm going to do one of these at a time, and it looks like I chose the big one to do first. But I'm going to need to keep that on there. Yeah, this is not going to be easy. Or maybe it will be. I can keep even pressure. And I'll use my X-clamp tool, thankfully. Try not to let this move. Okay, the first sink is installed and has new thermal paste, so that went well. We now want to do the same thing on the second heatsink. So this has 2 chips. I'm just going to apply a small amount for each one in a P shape. I believe that was all the thermal paste left in this, which is exactly the perfect amount. And that's fine. I'm glad that tube is used and done and got one last good use. If this works, it'll be a miracle. And I'll consider that to be good enough. I still might do the, at least on my other systems I'll be prepared, because I have 3 other red ring of death systems over there that will get the same treatment if this works. And I will do the proper X-clamp fix for that. Now this is going to be even trickier because the bottom of this heatsink is now not unable to be planted on the desk, and I have to work around the other one being there. Okay. Might be the hardest part done. Well, actually, this will most likely be the hardest part. I think I might. As you can see, these X-clamps aren't the greatest. Already can detect that I have, that they allow for some movement. I mean, they are clamping. We'll see. Yeah, again, so this doesn't need much to run again. I think I'm actually prepared right now with everything we need. It just really doesn't even need this, but I'll just slide it in here and plug in the fan so that it has a chance. An DVD drive can just plug in and hang out the side like this. It doesn't need nothing special. So now this Xbox almost thinks it's an Xbox again. So with the front plate connected, it does. Essentially this is all reassembled, and we should be able to just apply power and video. I still have the video cable here. Where'd that go? What a mess of cables and stuff that I have here. Let's put this away before that gets spilled. And we can plug in the video cable, because I think it wants to see that before it fully boots. And the other end needs to be on or not, but we'll just... Okay, well, I'm expecting 3 red lights, and anything different would be a success. So let's see. We should have power now on this. We're just going to push this little button here, which would turn it on. And like I expected, we do have the 3 red lights still. So I didn't think that was going to work, and this Xbox is probably beyond gone. I think it may never come back to life, because if that didn't work, then probably nothing else. At this point, that's reasonable at least. We'll bring this back to life. So a little disappointing, but to be expected. So lots more projects around here, and I may not have given up hope on this yet. We'll see. I might do some more checks to see what else can be tried, but I won't waste too much more of my time, that's for sure. So I got plenty of ideas and other consoles to fix and restore around here. So yeah, this one will maybe be left to the side for future projects at least. If you like the content, follow along, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.